is telling us as men to be common, to fall in line, to fall short of any visions or plans God has for us. But what about being uncommon? This is a movement of men seeking to build an eternal legacy. A journey of men on mission to rise above the common, to experience sustainable life change. This is Uncommon Disciple. Welcome to the Uncommon Disciple podcast. My name is Michael Bowen, and with me as always is Jared Gibson and our good friend, Collin Cottrell.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Collin.
Live and in person.
Yes, we are recording remote from Dallas, Texas. We've just spent the last couple of days at the Echelon Front Muster 13. And so it was hard not to say, good evening, Collin, when we came on. But what you'll hear is the sound of a Jocko Discipline Go energy drink, my favorite, the Jocko Palmer, which they supplied in abundance at the PTs that, if I'm very transparent, I didn't go to. But we did our own PT, and it's good to see you. So Collin is the founder and CEO of High Caliber Hunts, and he lives in San Antonio, Texas, with his beautiful wife, Christina, and his three beautiful children, Sophia, Autumn, and Conlin.
Yep,
that's correct, right? Yep. And one of your daughters just got a second stripe on her white belt.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, that's a proud moment for a dad, man.
Yeah, she's been training for about 8 months now.
Yeah.
It's pretty only training gi for 2 months. So
yeah, so she's not quite the advanced white belt that Jared is,
or myself,
or yourself, but she's getting there. So that's awesome to hear. But welcome, buddy. Yeah, it's good to see you again.
Welcome.
I'll give the listeners a little bit of feedback and backstory to how Collin and I met. And as you guys know, if you've been listening, how this podcast developed. Early on, it was sometime at the beginning of last year, I went on a father and son retreat with Bedros Keuilian out in California, where I met Ryan Mickler, who I didn't know who he was, but everyone else knew who he was. And we strung up a friendship. And he invited me out to his house when the Origin camp, the jiu-jitsu camp, was going on in Maine. And he said, yeah, there's going to be a couple of guys there. And I had no idea who they were. I didn't even know if he was serious. But, as I got to know Ryan, he was a man of his word. Yeah. And sure enough, I landed and he said, yeah, come on over. And I met Collin. And we ate awesome lobster with Ryan. And if you guys haven't listened, go on, check out Ryan's podcast, The Order of Man. He's got a good thing going on over there, and just someone who really encouraged me to do this podcast. So anyway, we spent the night at Ryan's, and then we ended up sharing a cabin together for a week. Yeah. And we got to, do all the things. What was there, 8 of us in that cabin?
Yeah, there was, I think, 7 or 8 of us.
Yeah.
It
was stinking it up, and jiu-jitsu geese.
Tight-knit little group of guys, and training jiu-jitsu 3 times a day, eating good food, hanging out, just feeding into each other, man. It was awesome.
So that sound of the Discipline Go brought back some memories, didn't it?
Every morning.
Yeah. Every morning I would crack one open, Jared, before everyone was even awake. And so I think there was a point that Kip and Ryan were talking on their podcast. They're like, yeah, did you hear the what was that? And they're like, yeah, it was Michael Bowen. So we developed a friendship there. Yeah. And I knew that Collin was a believer, and we shared a good time of fellowship there at the camp. And I'm just grateful that God, just as we prayed before we got on the podcast, that God's been developing this friendship, and just excited to see you launch off. I know that when we talked at the camp, you were kind of in transition, not knowing what you wanted to do for work.
Yeah, a little bit of limbo. I was kind of in a spot where I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go, how I wanted to build this business, how exactly that was going to, and I'm still, obviously I'm still trying to figure that out. It's kind of like, hey, God, you just take it over and do your thing with it. So, but yeah, I was in a little bit of limbo, and I've been a marketing guy for many years, 15 years now, digital marketing guy in the hunting industry. So I've always been in the hunting industry. I've always been a hunter. I grew up hunting with my uncles and my dad. It's my passion. I love it. I love to take new hunters. I love guiding hunters. So I started guiding when I moved to Texas. Started guiding about 4 years ago, but just through hunting, you start to take people because you want to share your passion with other people. So when I got this idea around taking guys hunting, but then kind of hopefully bringing men together to, build an impact into their lives and help build an impact into their families' lives as well. I just didn't know where that was going to go. I didn't know what that looked like. And so having conversation with you, having conversation with Ryan, even several of the other guys at that camp, actually kind of started to open my eyes to some different ideas and some different ways I could, put this together where it wasn't just about me and my hunting and me getting to be out in the woods, but also impact other men, and help them to get out in the woods and, get closer to nature and closer to God, but also get around other men.
Yep.
So
where did you grow up hunting?
So I grew up in central Minnesota, actually. Yeah, man, a very rural area.
So Mr. Dave podcast.
Oh man,
ministered to you a little bit.
It was so cool it was really cool to hear Dave talk, and kind of it brought me back home for sure, because all my family's in Minnesota still. I miss it a lot. I love Minnesota. I love the rural area. I grew up in a town of about 500 people, so very poor.
What town?
County, Verndale, Minnesota, actually. Yeah. So close to the Brainerd Lakes area. That's where most people will know. But I went to college in Alexandria, Minnesota. And then I went to school down in the Twin Cities as well. So just hearing those different conversations with Dave was really, really cool. And then obviously I know you're from Minnesota as well. So we kind of hit it off on that point as well when we were meeting each other.
Yeah.
But
we were living in Colorado at the time. We just moved from Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Minnesota was transitional. But
Yeah.
I believe that the only reason God brought us to Minnesota was to meet Mr. Dave.
Yeah.
And Jared and I have talked about that a few times. So
hey, that's a good reason to go to Minnesota for a little bit,
Yeah.
man. He seems like an awesome man. I can't wait to meet him here soon. But yeah, man, I grew up hunting in central Minnesota. It's kind of just a way of life for us, killing our own food, man. Getting out in the woods, enjoying nature. It's just something that my uncles and my dad wanted to teach me from a young age. So some of my earliest memories are actually being out in the woods, sitting in a deer stand with my dad in cold, snowy Minnesota, and just stuck with me. I enjoyed it from the start. I saw the value of it. They taught me the value of hunting for your own food, being able to provide for your family, being able to, just learn the different things that you learn around hunting that can be impactful and help your life. And so, yeah, now it's carried obviously into me being a dad and a father and a husband and those things. And just having people around me as well that want to learn this skill, this trait, and they want to take that back to their family and impact their family. So there's a lot to be learned around hunting, but it's been a really special thing for me. It's kind of weird to think like I've made a career out of being in the hunting industry around I'm a marketing guy, but I've been able to be around hunters and outdoorsmen my whole, working career.
Sure.
It's something I'm so passionate about. Like I remember thinking back in 2006 when I was going to college yet, I was like, man, I could make a living in the hunting industry, like a legitimate, living, making money, like being around hunters and marketing hunting products or influencers or whatever, and here I am 15 years later, still doing it, just trying to change the way that works, get out of the office more and get into the woods more. So
that's a good, hey, have you ever been hunting, Jared?
Yeah. So
we were talking about this actually earlier.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. My first exposure to it was as a teenager. My grandfather owned close to 500 acres in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, like out in the middle of nowhere. And it was like I'll never forget, like I was raised like BMX biking in the desert. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I mean, just riding bikes and stuff like that. I'd never hiked. I'd never been outdoors. And the very first time we went to his house, he had a deer hanging from the tree in a noose that he had just killed as we pulled up, and blood's dripping out of it. And my first thought was, wow,
that's awesome.
But I mean, after that, I mean, he taught me how to shoot, he was my step grandfather, but I mean, he became it's the closest I ever had.
Father figure.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, in a sense. And somebody who taught you some, really important traits for life that you're going to eventually use more and more.
Exactly.
So
you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
So Jared, before we came on the trip, so we're going on a hunting trip with Collin and JP.
Well, we're going to go pig hunting,
guys.
Tomorrow night, we're going to go nighttime thermal pig hunting, which is really cool. It got me pumped up just to have you guys part of that.
So the funny part is that Jared had no hunting gear, so he had to make a trip to the store. And I encouraged him. I said, "Bro, just wear your skinny jeans and Vans.
Yeah,
like that'll go over well in the pig hunt, man." What do you think? Skinny jeans and Vans on a hunt?
There's all types.
Yeah.
And we welcome all types. So I mean, you're gonna be that marketing guy for me that's gonna reach,
even guys in skinny jeans and Vans.
You're welcome.
Hunting.
You're welcome.
I'm your urban reach.
Yeah, exactly. You got to have a little bit of everything in the mix there, man. For sure. That's pretty funny though.
So you went to Crown College.
I did.
Played
actually.
college ball. Only I know this because I knew he played college ball before football.
Yeah.
And he sent me a text message, Collin did, with their shirt. Did I sent you the text message?
That's
here?
right.
So the front of the shirt, if I could just describe it, it says Uncommon Men. It has the Under Armour logo on it. And then the UN for uncommon is capitalized. And on the back, there's 5 different statements.
Yep.
Did you have to memorize these statements?
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
But we looked at them every day because those were our jersey or under our jerseys that we wore every day.
So I thought it was awesome because it kind of is in line for what we believe, right? So
and I want to mention this before you talk about this. Coach Auer, my coach, was an amazing man. He just left coaching this last year. And man, he just thinking about it makes me want to like just get a little emotional. I mean, he really made an impact on my life. And he was the one who came up with that shirt and really just, he didn't beat it into us, but he just said, this is what's important for life. This isn't just football. This is life, and that's what's really cool about this shirt. I mean, it wasn't just on the football field. It was actually impactful to my life now.
So yeah, guys, the importance of having a coach, right? And if this guy came up with this shirt, he was obviously a godly man.
He's a very godly
wanted
man.
to ensure that everyone on the field knew that, but that he had some things that they were playing for outside of football. So he says, an uncommon man lives their life for Christ at all times, even when no one is watching. And this is a football cut. Did you cut the sleeves off yourself to make your muscles look bigger, like most guys do?
Of course.
Okay, just checking. And then he outlines Hebrews 4:13, and then the second statement is, an uncommon man cares more about the team than themselves, which is interesting because that's what Jocko had said to JP as they were on the stage. That was one of the statements he had made at one of the FTXs. 1 John 3:16. And then the last statement is, an uncommon man makes decisions based on what is right and doesn't worry about what others are doing. 1 Corinthians 13:11. And then it says, dare to be uncommon. Crown College football 2009.
D3, baby.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. So he was obviously a big influence. When did you come to faith?
Yeah, man. So I came to faith at a church camp called Big Sandy Camp. Actually, I was 6 years old, McGregor, Minnesota. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I've not.
It's part of Christian Missionary Alliance, CMA, which is a Crown College's Christian Missionary Alliance based. But yeah, I was in a log cabin summer camp. I was, and my summer camp leader was, telling me the word, telling me what God was all about, man. And like, I came to that moment of realization, like, man, I'm a sinner. Like, I have fallen short, and like, been a bad little boy, you know what I mean, for my parents. Yeah. And I just remember crying and kind of weeping and like, man, I need to ask for forgiveness, and that's when I came to know the Lord, and he came into my heart, and I got on fire. In my younger years, I was on fire for the Lord, and not that I'm, wasn't at other times, but I fell away for a while and fell into the world and fell into fame and fortune and those kinds of things. Yeah. And especially in my younger years, building my business, there was a lot of times of, where I was seeking the world more than I was seeking him. And there's still times like that.
Yeah. Well, hey, Jared and I talk about it that I think that's a struggle for a lot of men.
Absolutely.
Even today. And I can't say that it isn't a consistent temptation, right? To be drawn away by the things of this world. And actually, Paul mentions that in one of his epistles, where he says that one of the guys that was running with him has been drawn back into the world. He's left me, and it's very dangerous. But after college, you obviously played some ball. You graduated college.
I didn't actually. So when I was went to 2-year school. I went to a tech college for 2 years in Alexandria. And while I was going to school there, I kind of found this talent for being an entrepreneur. I started building my business already right there.
This is the marketing business?
This is my marketing business. Cottrell design, very original at that time. And so I was designing websites and doing some graphic design work, starting to kind of figure out the social media thing was getting started. 2007, 2006, Facebook was just getting launched, Twitter, some of the other networks. I kind of found this talent for, understanding how that all worked, how community worked, and how I could build a business around that for myself and for other people. So from there, I went into, I knew I didn't want to just like go out into the world right away. I knew I wanted to kind of enjoy college, but I also had this passion for football.
Sure.
And some of the recruiters at Crown called me back up after a couple of years in college. They're like, "Are you still interested in playing football? We know you're from Verndale, big football school. Verndale's really well known in central Minnesota for being a 9-man powerhouse. We played 9-man football.
Yep.
Actually, Coach Malin, my coach, is the winningest head football coach in Minnesota high school football history. So another amazing coach that I've had in my life. And but yeah, so I decided to go to Crown and play some college football. And really enjoyed it. Played 2 years there. And then, from there, I was building my business in college. And it was actually starting to grow quite a bit. I was like, man, I'm at a crossroads here. I can either try to finish out college. I was a couple semesters still short after my 4th year of college. And I was like, I can keep building my business, or I can go back to college and keep paying private school money for that college. And I was like, this is a pretty easy choice. I think I'm going to move out of college and go ahead and start continuing to build my business. So that's what I did. And I actually moved out to Montana right after college and lived out there for 2.5 years. So
did you hunt out there in Montana?
A little bit. Yeah, man. I learned about Western style hunting. It was amazing, actually, like very intimidating. The mountains, just being backpacking into the woods yourself, in bear country, grizzly bear country. Sure. Man, it was awesome. It was a great I miss it a lot. I think about it a lot. Not that I wasn't exposed to the big woods of Minnesota, but it's a totally different place when you're up in these mountains. I've never seen the mountains before until I went out there. We didn't go on vacation out to the mountains or anything when I was younger. We couldn't afford it. Yeah. So it was really cool. I remember going out there and just falling in love with Montana and thinking, yeah, I think I'm going to move out here pretty quick. And I ended up moving out there for 2.5 years. And then from there, I moved back to Minnesota for a short stint, and then I moved to Texas 10 years ago.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So tell us about what happened with the marketing company.
So yeah, the marketing stuff was actually really, really good. I started to build this business, and I really found my niche in social media marketing. So I really understood how to use Facebook and how to build communities, and how to, back then you could build these, organic social media. You probably know a lot about this, Jared, just with your marketing background and tech background. You could build organically like these big Facebook pages around different, niche topics. And so I started to understand this, and I started to build these hunting niche pages, like a whitetail hunting page, a hog hunting page, a turkey hunting page, all these different things. And so that actually, people started to notice what I was doing with some of that. And they're like, hey, can you do that for our business? So I started to kind of gain some traction and get some pretty big name clients on board. Yep. I won't drop any names here, but had some pretty cool clients that I worked with that are still around, and one being a rock star, another being one of the biggest hunting athletes out there right now on social media, which is pretty cool. So there was a lot of early success, and I was only in my early 20s, and I'm having all this success and money's starting to flow in and different things like that. And I'm single and kind of living my life how I want to live it, and not for the Lord. Yeah. Hey. So it was
that's why I'm leading up to where you're at now. So
yeah, man. But it was really cool. And then I officially launched with a business partner. Actually, it was called Maximum Media. So this was like 2010 when we officially launched that, 2011. And yeah, things were really good for 3 years, man. It was really, really good. And kind of started to burn out on it a little bit. We were running pretty hard. I had a girlfriend at the time. I guess you could say serious girlfriend, but we weren't living right. I was living with her, and we were, living in sin and just not doing things right. And I wasn't focused on her at all anyway. I was focused on my business and me and what I was getting out of everything. And so I was traveling a lot. I was on the road a lot, going to trade shows, trying to build my business, build connections, going hunting a lot, those kinds of things. It just wasn't for me in that time. It was great. I loved it. Being in the world like that is awesome when you're in it, but you start to get burned out and you realize like, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be something deeper in life than just money and traveling and, doing all these things that look cool on the outside, but deep down inside, I could feel like, man, I'm not being fulfilled. Something's not right here.
Sure.
Things weren't right with my girlfriend. Things weren't right with my business partner. Things were starting to fall apart with different things, and I know why that was now, obviously being a little wiser, a little bit older. But at that time, you're just like, whatever, I'll just keep doing it. I'll just keep burning both ends of the candle. And then from there, it just starts to fall apart. And I started to transition my business with my talent. Luckily, I had all this talent. I understood how to do all these different things on the marketing level. So I transitioned. I sold out my business to my business partner. And then I started my own website, which was called Outdoor Overload at the time. It's no longer there, but I sold that, and I ended up selling that out a couple of years ago as well, which was another transition that we'll probably get into. But that's when I met my wife at the time, or my wife now, which was my girlfriend at the time, and she ended up getting pregnant before we were married, and that was a huge transition. So yeah.
Yeah. So the transitions.
I think it's really interesting. I've had a lot of transitions in my young life where I think some people have these maybe into their 30s and 40s, where I had a lot of transitions very early on in my 20s, which I kind of look back now and I'm kind of glad about that, because I learned a lot in a really short period of time, where I think there's times when some men will learn a lot over a longer period of time, and then it just like keeps bringing them back down, maybe,
Sure.
So yeah, I learned a lot in a short period of time, and went through some tough moments of a lot of anxiety and stress, and trying to figure out who I was, and trying to figure out why I'm here, what's my purpose, who am I, where am I going, all those things I think we ask as men that we don't maybe understand in our younger days, especially if we, my father, I love my dad to death, and we have an okay relationship. We don't talk as much as I'd like, and part of that is, when I was younger, he was an alcoholic and he drank, and that was his God, drinking in the bars. And that was his focus. So he was at my sporting events. He loved me. He cared about me. I could tell, he took me hunting, he took me camping. We did things. But when he wanted to be at the bar, be with women, or do his thing, that was his thing. And that's what he loved to do. And, I didn't understand it at the time, but as I got older, I was like, my dad's not really, I don't have that relationship with my dad like I see some other Christian men have with their kids. You know what I mean? So I kind of missed out on some of that. And then I had a stepdad who was a hard butt. Yeah. So he was a stickler. He was an old farmer, who, he was hard on, he's turn off the lights. We're not wasting electricity on you. You got to get up early to go to work. He was a farmer. He's a rancher, very successful guy, very awesome guy. And I look back now and I'm like, Dan just really loved me a lot. He just was trying to show me that this world is tough. It's not easy. Yeah. Like there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of things I'm going to go through as I get older that I need to learn now, and start to build some discipline and learn respect, and learn how to keep my mouth quiet and just listen and learn. And I didn't like that then, and my dad was.
Do you get mad when your kids leave the lights on now?
Of course I do. Of course. We probably all do. Oh, yeah. We probably all do, you know? So
what do you think, we're lighting up the whole neyborhood?
What's it cost you at the end of the month? A couple extra bucks, But
we tell our kids, hey, we're going to start charging you electric in the house, like we're going to start taking it out of your allowance.
Oh, I say that too. Yeah. But so, I think there was a little bit of an issue there for me, like, and it might still be there a little bit where I'm, I've forgiven my dad for that. And he's sober now, over probably 12 or 13, 14 years sober now. And we've had some moments where we had to say sorry to each other and forgive each other for different things. And so that has reconciled us a little bit. Yeah. But he's kind of one of those guys who doesn't, he doesn't call me every day. He doesn't text me very much. He kind of doesn't stay in contact. And I sometimes wish that he would. So
really,
yeah,
that's interesting. I had a conversation with a guy today about this same thing. Cause we have two older boys, and I feel, obviously I wasn't walking right with the Lord as I raised them, but I love them tremendously.
Yeah.
And they've really done well on their own, taking care of themselves. They haven't asked me for much. And so I remember when my dad used to call me, give me the guilt trip, because he was trying to overcompensate, you don't call your old man anymore, blah, blah, blah. And so I really give our boys some space. Yeah. And I literally, hey, they're grown men, and I check in with them, maybe once or twice a week sometimes. Yeah. And tell them I love them, just thinking about them, praying for them. But I give them that space because I don't want to be the over-assuming dad and just bugging them. And if they need me, I'd jump on the plane to go be with them.
Of course.
But I wonder.
Yeah.
Now that you're saying that, if they're like, "Hey, I wish Dad would call me more." Did you ever tell your dad that?
I haven't. I probably need to, express that a little bit better. I mean, there's been times where I was like, "Hey, you can call me up or you can text me a little bit." You know what I mean? But I need to be a little bit more upfront and straightforward with it too. But he's remarried now. He's got a young child, or he's still got a teenage child that he's raising really well. And I love my stepmom, and I love when we go to Minnesota and spend time with them. So, and I'm far away from them. I'm 1,500 miles away from them too. So the communication is always going to be hard anyway. But it's kind of interesting that you say that. Some of it might be on me too. It might be in my younger years I was very independent as well. So maybe he just wants me to let me be independent.
Yeah.
And I also know that he was the youngest of 12 kids. So he didn't get he didn't get the attention that he needed. So maybe that's just kind of how he was raised as well. Yep. You don't know,
Yeah. But listen, I desire that relationship, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we have a healthy relationship with my boys, but I just don't want to be all over them, because I don't want it to sound like I'm, checking up on them.
Yeah.
But God knows.
And
if they're listening, and you do want Dad to call you more, then I expect a text. Hey, Dad. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Text me more or call me more. Yeah. So,
and that's maybe just a conversation you all need to have. And just like I probably need to spend some time with my dad and invest into that and say, hey, let's try to stay in touch a little bit better. Maybe I need to be more upfront and do that too.
Because as guys, we're dumb sometimes, right? Yeah. We're just aloof about, certain things like calling and being, caring and
of course. So. But no, I love my dad, and I know he ultimately does love me and cares about me, and he does show that in his own ways. But I think there was some times in my 20s where I was figuring out a lot of things, and even now I'm still figuring out a lot of stuff. I think they'll never stop, obviously, but I wasn't as wise in my 20s with my decisions because I didn't have that leadership from the father standpoint, other than my stepdad, who I didn't want to listen to because he was the hard guy. You know what I mean? So I kind of look back at that now and I'm like, man, I really missed out on a lot of things in my 20s that I should have learned earlier, maybe in my teenage years, that would have helped me in my 20s and even helped me be a better man, early on. But you also think about, hey, you learned all those lessons now in your 20s, now your 30s, 40s, 50s. Maybe it'll be a lot better for you, your kids, and your family. So, and that does drive me today. Like when I think to how I want to raise my kids, man, I want to communicate with them. I want to stay in touch. I'm taking Sophia to jujitsu where, she's 6 years old. My 4-year-old, she already wants to go to jujitsu. I have a 1-year-old, who just, it's my son. He adores me. I can tell already, we have that father-son relationship already. So. It's cool.
Conlin. That's
Conlin.
That's a unic name. When I was reading it, I was like, did he misspell Collin?
Well, the story on that's kind of funny. Like part of me was like, should I go with Collin Jr., but, and another part of me was like, I want him to be unique and have his own name. And my blood is Irish. I have part Irish blood in me, and Conlin is an Irish name. Yep. So I was like, man, it'd be kind of cool to spell it. Most people spell Conlin Conlan.
Yep.
And I was like, it'd be kind of cool to just, take out one of the L's and turn it into an N of Collin and make it Conlin. And my wife was like, that's really cool. Like, that's a good name. I was like, yeah, I think it is. It just kind of came. Actually, it came.
It's a strong name, bro. Conlin is a strong name.
Oh, it's very
not
strong.
as strong as Jason Gardner's kids. I
got some strong names.
Well, I met his wife, which was awesome because I follow her on social media. But
Iris, right?
Yeah, Iris. Yeah. She he had given me a coin, his retirement coin at this muster. But his kids' name are Storm and Thor.
Oh man,
dude, that's some names right there, bro.
Yeah,
Storm and Thor.
That's real strong.
Go get him, Storm. It's awesome. But
isn't Jocko's son's name
Thor?
Yeah, as well. Yeah, that's interesting. For sure. Yeah, but yeah, man.
But good. Yeah, well, we're gonna take a break here, Collin, and when we pick back up, we'll talk about as you progressed.
Yeah,
and you have some complacency stories that that I'd like to dig into because I think Jared can relate to that and he'll be able to chime in. So
cool.
Yep, remote from Dallas.
We'll be right Dallas.
Back. Hey, gentlemen, we just wanted to take a pause in this podcast. And again, thank you for listening in. And we wanted to share some resources and companies that we hope that you'll find will add value to you and into your world. And one of these companies that we'd like to tell you about is Origin Maine. And if you've never heard of Origin Maine, their products are made right here in America, and their mission is to bring American manufacturing back to the U.S. We love what this company stands for. If you have not heard of Origin Maine, go over to their website and check them out, originmaine.com. And I've been there. I've been to their facility, and I've seen what they're doing with some of the towns in Maine, revitalizing communities and just making a positive difference in their area. So what we also love about them is also that their products are superior. They're very high quality, and literally we're fueled by Jocko Discipline Go, which is one of their products. We carry all of their supplement lines here at our Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and we see that it makes a difference in the people that use their products. I personally use it. I use Joint Warfare because I'm an old guy, and their krill oil, and then especially during this time of season, I use their Cold War as well, and they just came out with a new pre-workout that's pretty awesome. And so we know that you won't be disappointed. They also have a full line of jiu-jitsu gis and apparel. I've got a pair of Origin boots that are just indestructible. I love them, and they're comfortable, and again, they're made right here in America. And so as a listener and supporter of this podcast, you get a special 10% discount off of any product sold at originmaine.com. So head over to originmaine.com, and that is ORIGINMAINE.com, and enter Uncommon10 to receive 10% off of all of your purchases. That's Uncommon10. Thank you, and we'll get back to the episode. Welcome back. So, Collin, we were talking on break, and I wanted to kind of fast forward into this time of breaking up with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that were happening at that moment, where God started to just pull some things back from you.
Yeah.
And then how you met Christina. Obviously, I think that's important because I know from our talks, even at the camp, that she's been a real supporter of yours and a great cheerleader. And it sounds like she's a great woman of God too.
Oh, she is,
so,
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was having all the success, like I said, in my early 20s, and then the walls kind of started to fall down around me, with my relationship with my girlfriend at the time. Obviously I wasn't feeding into her at all, and she wasn't getting much from me because I was so focused on my business and my success and, how I looked to the world, how I looked on social media.
You were selfish.
Very selfish, man. And I'm still very selfish, but I was really selfish. So it was, the walls were falling down around me. My business partner and I, we kind of broke it off. Like I said, my girlfriend and I broke up, and there was some time of, I was in some kind of depression, I guess you could say. There was a lot of prayer that I needed at that time. And I remember reaching out to my mom, like crying, like, oh, just pray for me. I don't know what to do. Everything's falling down around me. And at the same time, I was doing the last thing I should have done and was looking for another girlfriend, looking for something to fill my needs. You know what I mean? What's the next business? What's the next turn? What's the next step?
Isn't that what most guys do though? Right? If guys that are listening, a lot of times when God is peeling back things in your life, we start to look for things to replace something that we had, and it could be drugs, alcohol, more work, business, success. Yeah. In your case, another girlfriend.
Yeah, girlfriend and more success. I wanted to get that feeling back of having that business, having that those social media posts, I could say, of all the success and the people I was hanging out with and all the things I was doing. It was like I needed to be back in the limelight again. So yeah, God was definitely working on me. I just wasn't quite ready for it yet. I wasn't ready to hear it and ready to say, all right, I'm going to let it all go and listen to you, Lord. And we fight back. Especially when we're younger, we fight back, and I'm a very independent guy. So like, I'm a fighter, man. Like I won't let stuff go sometimes. So, but yeah, it was interesting. So I'm like talking to Christina through, farmersonly.com, which is kind of funny. We're messaging each other.
Wait a second.
Like,
hang on. I think I've seen billboards driving down the street, like amishwomen.com or farmersonly.com. Are you kidding?
Easy now. No, man.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny. One of my buddies.
Yeah, it is kind of funny.
It is. Yeah. I've never had an online date. I mean, I was the guy who could go into the bar.
It wasn't like Christian Mingles. You were like, no, I want a farmer chick. Is that what it was?
I don't know. My buddy was just like, he's like, hey, dude, there's a lot of good looking girls on this farmer only thing. Like I know it sounds weird and it sounds
They wear
cheesy,
them coveralls and them.
but hey man, my wife is a good looking woman. And she's a good woman. So, I mean, something worked out there.
There you
I
go.
don't know. The good
she
Lord,
loves the Lord.
The good Lord put me in the right place at the right time. So it was kind of interesting. We were messaging back and forth. Actually, I remember like specifically, I come home from the bar at like 2 or 3 in the morning and I got a message from this girl. This is cool. So I'm like half drunk, probably still, who knows? And I'm messaging her back and, I'm a great guy and this and that. I'm really talking myself up. I'm very
great guy.
successful. You know what I mean? Like it was ridiculous, but, I was just looking for that next, I was looking for that to fulfill that need, something inside of me did want a good woman. Something inside of me was telling me, and I know it was the Lord. He was saying, you need to find a really good woman that loves the Lord and is going to get you down the right path. So it's
kind of like what Adam did, right? With Eve. He's like, I'm going to give you a woman.
Yep.
It's going to be your helper. And so, hey, desiring a good woman is not a bad thing.
Yeah. And luckily I had that inside of me enough where I knew like,
did you want her to fix you?
No.
Or did you know that God was going to provide someone that would be aligned with your heart where you wanted to be?
Yeah, I think I just knew that the Lord was going to do that. Yeah. I didn't know what it looked like or where it was going to be at or how it was going to be or who it was going to be. Yeah. But it just ended up working out that, from there, I met Christina. We started, dating online. We were talking quite a bit for about 2 months. She had went through some of her own trauma at that time. And we kind of both just hit it off through our trauma and through our breakups and different things like that. And then from there, we're like, I guess we got to meet, and get together and, see how that goes. And so I remember I was like 3 hours late to our first date. Just a loser, man.
Christina, what were you doing?
I know we joke about that a lot. Actually, it's kind of funny. Yeah. She's like, I should have just left you.
Yeah. 2 hours late for a date, bro. Good grief.
Well, to be honest, I drove through Austin, and you know how Austin. Okay. If you've ever driven through Austin,
it's crazy over there.
It's pretty bad. But no, I was
somewhat excused.
Hey, I'll admit, man, I was late. She probably should have just said, screw that guy and let me go. But she didn't, luckily. And we went on a date and actually really hit it off. And she was a good girl. And I was trying to be a good guy. Yeah. I was putting on a hard front then. I was like, man, I got to be a good guy here now. Like I got
to back up all these lies that I've been telling her.
I got to change.
I'm a good man.
So I tried to do that. I was like in this mode, like, man, I think I can change. Like I can become a better guy and I can, this could be my girl. Yep. And, so my focus on business started to become a little less. And my focus on the relationship side was like, oh man, this could be something really special, but of course, when you don't fix the root problem, those come back at some point. So,
hey, listen, Jared and I have the same story, man. I mean, God knew the women that we needed.
Absolutely.
And I don't know any other woman that would have put up with my stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So, I joke around and say, because she's a former Marine, right? Like she's tough, but she's very sensitive in heart. And she's been my biggest cheerleader since we've been together. And she's always seen me through the eyes of God and not through, what a fleshly or carnal woman might see. Yeah. And so I'm grateful for that. And so I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So it was interesting. But she came to live with me that summer. She got out of college. She was in college still. She came to live with me 3 months into this thing. She's living at my house. I'm back to the old ways. We're living in sin. She's living at my house. Next thing you know, she's pregnant. We got in this huge fight. We broke up and I didn't talk to her for 8 months. While she was pregnant? I actually, in my head, I thought, this isn't my kid. That's what I actually thought that to myself. I was like, this isn't my kid. Like, it can't be, like, I'm safe. I'm careful. You know how we think that ego comes in. And it was really interesting. Like, I let her go. I said, it's not my kid. She's not my problem. I'm going to go back to living my way. So I went back to living my old ways and totally forgot about her. And then all of a sudden.
And she kept the baby.
Well, it's kind of crazy how the story goes, man. Like my mom started texting me and calling me. I have a pretty good relationship with my mom and we'll talk usually at least once a week or once every couple of weeks. That's good for me, I guess. Yeah. But, and she's like, this girl, Christina, she's a really nice girl and she's going to have your baby here soon. And I was like,
Christina, who?
I was like, oh my gosh, like it hit me. It was kind of crazy. This was like right around Thanksgiving time. And I was like, I'm having a kid, man. Like, I'm having a kid. Like, it hit me out of the blue. Like, this is a good girl. Like, it kind of brought those feelings back. Like,
This was Sophia.
I knew she was a good girl.
Was it Sophia?
It was Sophia, yeah. So she was due to have the baby in February, actually on Valentine's Day, and which is pretty cool. And but I went home for Christmas that Christmas, and my mom sat me down and she had a real good talk with me and said, you know, this is your child. You're having a kid. Like, it's time to grow up. It's time to come back to the Lord, and you know, it's time to man up. So it's your choice, obviously, what you want to do. But I think I know where you need to go, you know, and I know you need to reconcile that relationship. So I immediately, I prayed about it. I started going to church. It was kind of crazy. Like, my mom had a good talk with me.
I see you're getting a little choked up about the story, man.
Man, it's crazy to think back to it, but I know it's my story. I know it's my testimony.
Absolutely,
I know hopefully God's going to heal others and help others through that. It's not always easy talking about those things either, you know, because it's very intimate. It's a very tough moment in life. And as a Christian and somebody who says that they live as a Christian, like, it looks horrible. Like, I wasn't living as a Christian. I wasn't living as a good man. And I'm 27 years old, having my first kid. And for months, I didn't think it was even mine, and I wasn't going to claim it to be mine. And then it finally hit me, like, this is your child. It's time to man up. It's time to grow up. So I think, as you know, and you probably know as well, like, when you start to realize, like, you have a kid coming, you're going to be a dad, like, something comes over you and something, like, hits you. And it's like, wow, it was like a ton of bricks. I just remember I started going to church. I started praying again. I mean, I'm having a baby in a couple months. I've got to get it together here real quick. I've got to rekindle things with this girl. I want to be able to be at the birth. Thank the Lord. Her parents really liked me a lot. They're very, very special to me. And they said, you know, Collin, we love you. We care about you. You're going to be a good dad, we think. You're invited to come to the pregnancy. You can be there. We want you to be there. We want you to be part of this. We want to see you and Christina come back together and get to know each other again and see where that goes.
They're a faith-based family.
They are. Yeah, man. Christina's mom is just a great woman. And, you know, she really believed in us, and she had dreams about it actually as well, which is kind of cool to think about.
I just got goosebumps. Right? Just hearing that.
Right.
Because they could have had just the totally opposite perspective.
I mean, most parents would have been like, "Get away from my daughter! How dare you?
You're a loser!
How could you do that to my daughter?" But to show the love of Jesus, why when you needed it? I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, well, that's where I said,
it's really cool.
Even like with my wife, you know, she saw me through the lens of Christ. Yeah, where others from the outside would be like, "Run, run as fast as you can." Right. But hey, man, listen, and that is a great story of redemption, right?
Yeah,
where
it's still being played out, man.
You couldn't even destroy it, right? What man wanted to separate,
exactly.
God meant to bring together. Yeah. And I think that's the gospel message. Mm-hmm. That's the good news of Christ, what he does in people's lives, the restoration. And again, you said it, you know, when we did the little podcast preview, when I'd asked you some questions, you'd said, hey, you know, I'm walking with Christ actively, but I'm not a perfect man. Yeah. And I think if all of us are honest, we have to say the same exact thing. Yeah. We're always a work in progress. It's like jujitsu, right? You never are an expert in jujitsu, right? You're always learning and growing and getting molded and shaped, you know, hopefully into God's image if you're making choices that honor him.
And when you do make mistakes out on the mats, you know, you got to learn from those mistakes and then you got to get better. It's very painful.
It's painful.
And it's just like that in life. And I remember that I look back to that pain now and I think, man, those are some pivotal moments that somehow the Lord brought me through them. And now look where I'm going. Now look where my path is going.
So Sophia's born, right? But I know there was a time where, and I'm not sure where it occurred because we didn't get deep into that, but you had some physical complacency start to set in your life. You put on a bunch of weight.
Yeah, man.
I think you experienced some depression, and you know this last jiu-jitsu camp that we were at Origin in Maine, which is awesome. If you ever get a chance, if you're listening, you do jiu-jitsu, and there's an opening, you need to go. It's like a man camp, right, with jiu-jitsu, and there's some gals that go as well. But
sign up is right now, actually.
Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity to grow in fellowship with people. But at the camp, it was just coming out of COVID, right? So everyone was still, needed a vaccination, test, or not a vaccine test. It was a COVID test, or that you were vaccinated. And so we end up at the camp, and this is where you're just kind of starting to get back physically.
Yeah.
And we had some good deep talks. So talk through that.
Yeah, I just had this transition phase. I'll kind of step back a little bit further just because it'll connect the dots a little bit better. But yeah, Christina and I actually rekindled things. I was at the birth, and then her parents invited me to come live at their house with her and take care. And Christina wanted to go back to college. She was going to college still at the time. She was going to school to become a dietitian. So I was like, cool, I'll help support you. I'll take care of the baby. Like, it was cool. Like the first 6 months, like I was taking care of Sophia by myself every day. I could run my business online. I could run my website online, so I could be there, work from anywhere. So I'm running my business, taking care of my newborn child, for these 6 months, and just trying to get things right with Christina, trying to show her, hey man, like I'm a good guy. Like I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to abandon you. I'm just going to live good. I'm going to take care of her. I'm buying groceries every week. I'm, getting the things we need, the necessities, just trying to prove to her and show her like, hey, like I'm here. Like I'm the guy,
Yeah.
And through that, like, thank the Lord, like her feelings started to kind of come back, and she started to see, this guy is a pretty good guy. Those earlier feelings I had are, were real, and they were good. And I think there's something special here. So the Lord brought us back together. We ended up getting married in that October 1st, actually, of that same year after we had Sophia. And then from there, we both brought a lot of baggage into that relationship, though. There was a lot of, hard things that we hadn't, fixed and worked on, through that. But we were both imperfect people coming together. We both knew that. And from there, we just, we had our second daughter then, which was planned.
Yeah. Well, listen,
really cool.
I think the lesson there is you were getting your relationship right vertically with Christ.
Yeah.
Right. And then he started working the horizontal relationships out. And that's something that we just talked to Corey about.
Yeah.
The guy that's with us on this trip too. And I think it's an important message for guys to hear. A lot of times we look to impress or try to fix ourselves or fix the other person that we're with, when really all we need to do is get our relationship with God right.
Yeah.
And as you know, one of our missions here is to live to honor God and all that we do, all that we say. And when we do that, we're growing closer to him in relationship. He works everything out horizontally.
Yeah, he does.
Right?
He does. And he does. And he did that. He did that with her and I. He started working on my heart, showing me, hey, it's time for you to man up. It's time for you to be the leader. It's you. It's on you. It's on your shoulders. Like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to be come alongside you and be that strength for you. But you're gonna have to make the choice to want to actually do that. So I made that choice and started down that path. And yeah, there was a period there. We ended up buying a house in North Texas. So we moved away from San Antonio. We were living in San Antonio at the time. We moved to North Central Texas for a couple of years. And it was a good choice because it got us both free and outside of like being around her parents. It's not that her parents were bad. She needed to break free a little bit too and get out on her own. She hadn't really been away from her parents before. So it kind of actually put us in the situation where we had to rely on each other and grow together. So we were going to church there, but we were still, Satan was really working hard on us. He knew that we had issues that we needed to work on. And there was a lot of arguments, just a lot of strife between us. I hadn't been, I was a butthole. I was not being a good guy. I was not taking care of her like I should. My kids weren't respecting me like they should have been because I wasn't leading the way. Right. I knew I needed to get down that path of leadership, but I wasn't there yet. So we got to this point actually where she's like, I'm done. Like, I'm pretty much ready to leave and move back home and say, you're not doing the right thing here. And it hit me. So this is like the second time it hit me again. It's like, oh man, it's time to grow. It's really time to change here now. And thank the Lord, we met a awesome Christian counselor through a local church. And he kind of took us, alongside him and said, you know what, it's time to get back to your faith. It's time to get back in the word. It's time to get back to the base here. And then it's time to reconcile, truly reconcile. Forget about the past. Forget about what you guys have done to each other, where you've been, and think about the future, where you could go. He can't see this, obviously I'm putting my hands up and down, but he says the path is like this.
They'll see it on YouTube.
Yeah. The path is like this. It's not a straight line,
Yes.
and he's like, he's been married 50 years and he's like, man, you should see my path.
Well, dude, I and Jared knows this because we have this talk. I say that, I feel like my faith sometimes is like the stock market, right? But I'm always on an upward trend.
Yeah,
I hope.
exactly.
Right?
And that's what he said.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. You're always hopefully on an upward trend if you're, relying on the Lord.
But I think that's the other important aspect is that, the importance of having a Christian coach to mentor you through marriage. And I have some guys, Mr. Dave is obviously, he's been really tremendous in Song and I's, relationship, just looking as a loving dad from the outside in, but he's a marriage coach. Right. And him and his wife, Michelle, but we can forget, we have coaches in jiu-jitsu, we have coaches in sports, we have coaches for everything, but it's like, I don't need a coach for life. And so I think the importance of having, either a mentor or a good coach in your life to help you through some things that you need to work on, right? And just be able to point those things out and give you some encouragement and love, and obviously take it to God and let him work you through it.
It was so important at that moment, in that time. He came alongside us and just kind of brought us back down to the base level and said, here's what you need to be doing. But you got to do it. Like, I can't do it for you. I'm not going to fix this. You've got to trust the Lord and you've got to start to work on yourself. So that's what we did. And that was right when, it was right before COVID. This was actually the year before COVID. So thank the Lord for that, because then COVID hit.
And
imagine
stuck at home.
We would have been stuck at home.
Yeah.
Not in a good place.
Not in a good place at all. So actually during COVID was pretty cool, because we had kind of went through this transition where we had worked on it. Things were starting to come back. We were reconciling things. We were, when we did have issues arise, we were working on them at the base level and trying to go to the word for what we needed to do for those issues. And because
that is the ultimate self-help instruction book,
right?
If anyone has any questions, you go to the Bible and find your answer.
Yeah. And one couple of things like I wanted to say, first of all, good on you for seeking counsel.
Yeah.
There's so many men. I once was a prideful guy, right? Like when someone says go to counseling, you immediately think of like a shrink. You immediately think of that. But then what it does is like your pride creeps in. You're like, I don't need to fix. She needs to be fixed.
Exactly.
I'm good. You need to go to counseling. And there's so many men that are scared because it's going to make them a failure. Yeah. It's going to make them not good enough. Like the pride creeps in and they don't want to be wrong. Right. No. And so like, I didn't want to be wrong. Like when me and Amy, when we went through our big mess, we went to counseling. And at first I was like, I kept on being like, you should go to counseling. And then she would give me the eye and I'm like, I think I probably need it more than she does it. And then the other thing about like what happened like during COVID, right? For Amy and I, COVID was probably one of the most incredible times for us. Because we were in a much better space and we worked out a lot of things.
Yeah, that's good.
During that period of time where like I have people that I know that their marriages actually went south during COVID because
I know a lot of people that happened.
Because like when you're isolated, right? When you remove all the people around you, remove all that, and you're face to face, you're face to face with your problems, you're face to face with yourself, and you're face to face with
both your problems.
Right, exactly.
And you're not working on them. So yeah, man, I really, I'm really thankful that we started working on that before COVID hit. And I can definitely relate, man. It was like when COVID did hit, it was like, man, this is, I'm okay with this. Like, we're going to spend some time together. We're going to keep working on each other. And it actually wasn't a bad moment for us at all. We actually really took that time to, it helped us get debt free. We started working on different things. We identified areas we needed to work on. But also there was no gyms open. There was nothing open. So we're stuck at home, and she was actually pregnant with our son at the time as well. So we're sitting at home, eating ice cream, eating cookies, not doing much, not really working a lot because there wasn't a lot of work to be had. And so I'm just like blowing up like a balloon, and she's pregnant. So, she's doing her thing. And so, yeah, that's where that kind of getting back to what you were saying about the complacency. there was some complacency there that was happening. And, you know, I've always been a big guy. You know, I played college football. I was a defensive end, defensive tackle. So I've always kind of prided myself, oh, I'm big and strong. I'm always bulking. You know what I mean?
I'm big boned.
Yeah, I'm big boned. So I've always been that guy who's, 240, 250, 6'3", 240, 250. Big guy, strong guy, whatever. But I knew something inside of me was saying, like, man, you're really big. So I got up to about 290 after COVID. I gained 40, 50 pounds. It was not good. And I remember Christmas time, I looked in the mirror. We were at my in-laws. We had actually sold our house in Stephenville, moved to back to San Antonio. And at Christmas time, I was looking in the mirror. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm having a son here in a few days. And like, I don't know if I'm ready for a son. I don't know if I'm ready to take care of 3 kids. Like I do not feel good. I do not look good.
Yeah. You said that at the camp because you weren't, I didn't think that you were, out of shape.
No, I had actually already lost.
But you were starting on that path.
No, I had by that camp. So that was January when I started kind of on my path of, just getting back in shape, which, helped a lot of other areas of my life as well. But yeah, I was already 8 months into it.
By
then.
August.
So I had already lost 50 pounds already by then, and I was still a little bit, still 240 or whatever.
For sure.
235, 240. I'm down to 215, 220, feel good, building muscle, rolling hard jujitsu, running, training.
In the word.
Right. And my wife it's really cool. My wife is now on the path too, where she was pregnant during that time. And she was like, I just watched Collin totally make a transformation. Like I need to get, she was always in shape when we were dating and stuff. Like she was in great shape. She loves to run. She's big into working out. She was going to school to become a dietitian, so
leading by example, bro.
But
that's what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of crazy to think like just by, I wasn't telling her to get in shape. I wasn't telling her to do anything,
Because that never,
you don't do that with women anyway.
Yeah, you never tell your wife that she needs to get in shape. Just lead by example. Hey, you have a Bible verse on your right bicep. I noticed that earlier.
Do.
Is that new?
No, I've had that.
You did have it
quite
at
a
camp.
while.
Yeah,
I just had it redone.
So why was that important to you?
2 Samuel 22:2, man. It's a special verse. My mom, I remember when I was young, she gave me it was for my 9th or 10th birthday. She gave me a little plaque that had that on there. And the Lord is my rock, my fortress and deliverer. And I just remember reading that and then I read about it in the Bible, and it was I can't think of who it was now in the Bible. It was
King David.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I got you, buddy.
I read about King David, and his time there talking about that. And I just remember thinking, man, I know that I have the Lord with me at all times. He's going to get me through any moment, any situation. So that's why I put it on my arm right there because I look at it, I look at it all the time. I see it there and it's for me, it's kind of personal to me. It's right there in my bicep, so that's why it's special to me. It's got me through those depressive moments where I was, wasn't feeling good. I was like, I need to come back to the Lord. He's gonna be my strength. He's gonna help me through this.
It's interesting. As we were talking, Proverbs 12:28 came up to mind because we talk about being on this path, right? And King David's son Solomon wrote the Proverbs, and he says, "In the way of righteousness is life, and in the pathway thereof there is no death." So and I think of it as not only a spiritual life and death, but also a physical life and death, right? So.
For sure.
When you're on that path of righteousness, there's life, abundant life that you grow from, right? That God is sustaining.
Yeah.
But man, when you take that exit that God doesn't want you to take, it can lead to bad things.
Oh man. And it does. I mean, my life is a perfect example of that where I've went down a lot of bad paths, but you just start to work on those things and start to realize which paths do I want to go on and how can I get back on that right path, with the Lord? And that's what it always leads back to. It's kind of interesting how that happens, isn't it?
It is. It is. Now, it's interesting because on your website, right, you say that your business is described as hunting adventures with an impact, right? And so you have these different. You're utilizing the business to reach guys for faith. Obviously, you don't have to be a man of faith to come on the hunts, but obviously,
of course,
it's like our jiu-jitsu academy, right? We use it as a means to reach people, for the gospel. And if they make the choice, great. If not, still train jiu-jitsu. Like everyone's welcome,
of course,
but
absolutely.
but with an impact. And I love that message. And when we had talked about you getting into this hunting business way back in the day, man, I thought it was just because that's what you love to do.
Yeah.
Right. And that's you have a gift there.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe God's definitely gifted you and he's going to bless it. We have this thing, and you've listened to the podcast. We have this thing called Final Thoughts.
Yeah.
And so as we talk, or if God's put something on your heart
Mm-hmm.
that you think could impact men that are listening, what would it be?
So it's actually kind of interesting. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And then Jocko kind of hit on it today at the muster. And I think somebody was asking a question, how much of an impact can I make myself? Don't I need a team? Don't I need a lot of people around me? Don't I need great leadership? And obviously Jocko went into his spiel about it. And he said, it's not about the commander. It's not about the head leaders just because that's their name and their position. Us as individuals can make a big impact on one person, and that one person can make another impact on another person. And that's just going to continue down the line. And kind of get back to high caliber hunts and, hunting adventures with an impact. I could relate to that because it's like, I get these moments where I'm thinking, what can I do? I'm just one guy, you know what I mean? But then I started to think like, man, if I just help one person through what I'm doing, maybe one guy gets his gets back on the path of getting in better shape, or, being a better husband or being a better father. I'm a success in what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And I think the Lord's going to bless me through that. So that's my heart. I want to see us as individuals just, try to help one person and then see where that leads to.
Yeah. When people ask why Jared and I, started this podcast, I said, if there's just one guy that listens, just one guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he takes something away from one of the episodes that we have and he implements it and gets back on the path, right? This path of righteousness.
Yeah.
And God sees them through it, then I feel like the podcast has been a success.
Absolutely. And I can relate with that, man, because every one of your episodes have been a huge blessing for me. And I'm thinking and working through different things as I listen to them too. So I don't even feel like I should be here right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I told you this before, it ministers to Jared and I when we have guests on. So at the same time, it's God's working things out in our hearts, but dude, I want to have you back on because I think that we could be talking all night long. But man, I'm just so grateful for you. I'm excited about the hunt. Actually, we're going to shoot some footage at the hunt, so we'll be able to share it online with the listeners and tell them how they can find you, obviously online or on social media.
So I'm on Instagram. That's kind of the main platform I like to post on. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm Collin_Cottrell. And then from there,
can you spell that?
Yeah, Collin, COLLIN_Cottrell, COTTRELL. And you can also go to CollinCottrell.com. That has my links to everything, high caliber hunts, just different things I'm part of.
Yep. You have highcaliberhunts.com.
Yeah,
as well.
I also have that as well.
Good.
But it's kind of building this platform around my image and who I am and trying to just, promote just my life in general and my story as a Christian.
Yeah.
So
you're growing your beard out. Good on you.
A little bit.
Yeah.
My wife, I can do it now, like I've lost weight and I got the testosterone levels up a little bit, and the wife really likes it. So
amen to that. Well, man, it's good seeing you and look forward to spending all night with you
man.
Tomorrow night.
Appreciate it. And thank you so much.
We'll have you back on.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Love you, bro.
Yeah.